Hey, it's Anthony Meisner from Land Title. Came to bring your first to know update for Greater Metro Denver. And we have some interesting stuff to take a look at here. Even with rising inventory, we still have good news on the pricing front. Average sales price is 2.7% above this time last year, which is great news. This is the highest June we've had. And so I wanted to point that out. $812,000 average is pretty cool to see. The median sales price, though, is right where it was a year ago. We're only $1,000 off. So the median tells sometimes a little bit different story than the average. We can always check that by our price per square foot, which we'll look at here in just a second. The flip side of the coin would be that condo townhouse market. Tons more inventory, way more competitive there, and it's really driving prices down right now. We're down 5.3% from this time last year. The interesting thing is it looks like the trend line isn't going negative in the last few months, but it very well could be a seasonal thing. So we are significantly below where we were a year ago. Last year was below 2023, which was below 2022. The real question is how long before, something changes in the market to create a different condo feel, right? Because if we're going to continue to lose price, this is a tough market to be in as a condo seller or buyer, right? It's creating a lot of that where maybe buyers are going to go look at single family instead, especially after insurance and taxes. So definitely something to pay attention to if you're representing people in the condo townhouse market. Median's down 2.4%, so just a little bit better. Now, if we look at it from the price per square foot, this is that second check. You can see the price per square foot in detached single family. The first one there, $1 more than it was a year ago, so very much the same. That's a good sign that it's very stable. That's not so bad, right? So when we look at those numbers, they're very different than the condo townhouse market. If you're buying a condo or a townhouse, that's where we're really showing that consistent trend of 4% below where we were last year. Again, it actually declined by $4 again compared to the previous month, or I'm sorry, it went up by $4 compared to the previous month. But we're still kind of hanging out, and we're hanging in there trying to hold on to that value. But until interest rates drop and buyers come back to this marketplace, it's not a value buy like it used to be. So without that value proposition to it, it's going to have downward pricing pressure. Now, if you look at the supply, this is the one that's really getting everybody. We haven't had 13,000 units on the market since early 2010s, right? And the reason that I bring this up is, we're 37 or 32.7% above where we were this time last year. We're at 13,000 units. Does this feel great? No, it doesn't feel great. But the truth is, this is not terrible yet, right? We're not in a situation where we have 20,000, 25,000 units on the market. We've had such a low supply market for so long that this is something that, we may not be used to it, but we still don't have more than 3 months of inventory in many cases, right? I mean, if you look at this, new listings, 5,600 new listings came to market, almost exactly what we had a year ago. So it is turning over. It's just taking longer to turn over than it did before. So as a seller, you might have to be a little bit more patient, and you have to be more realistic about your price. But if you look at the demand side, we had 4,000 units go under contract. That's not bad. Very consistent with what we had in 2013, or I'm sorry, in 2023. In 2024, we're up about 5.6% from there, 5.7% from there. And you can really see the trend is it's consistent, right? So buyer demand is consistent year over year right now. So until something changes on the interest rate front, we aren't going to see more buyers, but we've seen so many more sellers. That's created that inventory level rise. And you can see it in the month supply of inventory. We're approaching 4 months. We've been 3.8 months for the last 2 months. Sellers curbed their enthusiasm, which kept down that month supply of inventory a little bit, but it is 27% more than it was a year ago. So with that in mind, it could be a lot worse. There are a lot of markets that have a lot higher inventory than this right now, but 4 months is approaching what NAR would consider balanced. So we're not even to a balanced market, even at 13,000 units. Now, take a look at this. This is kind of how does it feel to be a buyer or seller in the marketplace? Average days in MLS are 35, so they're still turning over pretty quickly. It's about a week longer than it was a year ago, though, so it's taking longer to sell. And that percentage close price to list price is 99.1%. Significantly dropping year over year, right? Another 0.5% lower. So sellers have less power, buyers have more control. But keep in mind, it doesn't include price drops or concessions, which we are seeing across most deals. So this is a tough one because you're in a position where you're, if you're representing a seller or you're working as a seller in this marketplace, you have to be very realistic about price. And if you're a buyer, you can be much more choosy and you can look at more stuff and you can kind of work through that. The most preliminary data we look at is showing traffic data. So showing traffic tells us what's going to continue to happen. And the good news is 13.4 showings to go under contract is not very many. And this is very consistent from what we felt over the last few years. It's 9% more than it was last year at this time, but honestly, that's less than a showing. So when you take a look at this, 4.6 showings per listing has dropped off by about 12%. This tells me that more buyers are out there and active because you have 27% more homes on the market, or they're at least looking at more homes to get what they want. As a buyer, it's a great time to go out there, find a house you really like, even if you're not super comfortable with the payment, because chances are those interest rates will tend to trend down, right? They look like they're about to head that way in some respect, assuming inflation doesn't get out of control. But here we are in a position where, there is showing traffic. It doesn't take too long to go under contract. You definitely can be choosy, but the good stuff is going to sell fast, right? Because even with 13,000 units on the market, if you have a house that needs some work or something, you're going to have to end up doing some of that, I think, to get it under contract, or at least to get the showing activity you need. Because if it doesn't show well online, people may just not come look at it because they can be so choosy. So hopefully that helps. If you have any other questions, concerns, you need any other data or information, please reach out to me. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll catch you next time.